The chamber lights glowed with a pale silver tone as the human soldier stepped through the broken archway. His boots echoed across the smooth crystal floor, and each step carried the weight of a long and hard journey. His name was Evan, a simple name for someone who had become a symbol across distant stars. He carried no grand armor and no heavy weapon, only a calm expression that made his presence even more powerful. Across the vast hall, the alien queen rose from her throne. Her tall frame shimmered with shifting colors that represented shock, disbelief, and fear. When she saw him, she let out a sharp scream that rang across the chamber. Her voice was layered, sounding like several tones blended at once. She pointed at him with a trembling hand and shouted that he was supposed to be dead. Evan did not rush forward or lift a weapon. He simply stood still and breathed out slowly. The hall around him still showed signs of the past conflict, but he refused to allow that moment to guide him now. He had crossed great distances to reach this throne room, not because he sought revenge, but because he needed answers. His goal was not destruction, but truth. The queen stared at him with wide eyes, trying to understand how he had reached her palace after everything that had taken place. Her guards did not step forward, because even they were uncertain of what they were seeing. They had heard the stories of the human who had survived storms, traps, and the harshest environments of their realm. Yet none of them believed he would reach this final chamber alive. Evan raised a hand in a slow gesture, asking for peace. His voice was steady as he asked the queen why she believed he was gone. She took a hesitant step back before answering. She explained that her council had informed her that the final mission on the frozen fields had ended with Evan lost beneath a collapsing cliff. They believed no one could survive such a fall. But standing before her now, Evan made it clear that the human spirit was not easily broken. He told her that the cliff had trapped him, but it had not ended him. He had pushed through ice, climbed through narrow tunnels, and walked day after day until he reached a place where he could signal for help. Every moment was painful and exhausting, yet he refused to accept defeat. This determination had brought him all the way to her palace. The queen listened with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Evan's story did not speak of anger. Instead, it spoke of endurance and purpose. She had grown up hearing tales of humans, some describing them as fragile, while others described them as unpredictable. Yet no description matched what she saw in front of her. Evan seemed peaceful, even though his journey had been long and full of hardship. She lowered her voice, asking him what he wanted from her now that he had reached her hall. His answer surprised her. He told her he wanted a conversation. He did not seek conquest and did not wish to bring harm. He wanted to understand why her council had acted against him during the early meeting they once shared. He believed there was something deeper behind the mistrust between their two species, and he wanted to know the truth. The queen hesitated. For the first time in a long while, she sensed honesty from someone who did not share her world or her customs. She gestured for her guards to remain still and motioned for Evan to step closer. Though the hall was large, each step seemed to carry a silent history between the two. When Evan reached a safe distance, she began explaining the events that had shaped her decisions. She told him that for several cycles, their worlds had attempted to build a simple agreement to avoid conflict, but a faction within her council believed humans were unpredictable and too ambitious. This faction feared that humans would one day spread too far and disrupt the balance of their galaxy. Because of this fear, the council had acted without her full approval. They had interpreted Evan's presence in their territory as a threat and had planned to force him into a situation where he would never return. She admitted that this plan was made in secrecy. Evan listened carefully. He did not interrupt her or display anger. Instead, he asked questions that showed he truly wanted to understand her perspective. He asked why she had trusted that faction. The queen lowered her head for a moment before answering. She explained that leadership sometimes required her to trust people who advised her, even though she did not always agree with their outlook. She added that the fear of losing control over their region made her hesitate to act against her council until it was too late. Evan thought about her words. He understood that leaders across different worlds faced similar challenges. Trust could guide a society toward progress or lead it toward trouble. As the conversation continued, the queen observed something unusual about Evan. Most individuals who reached this chamber did so with heavy demands or anger in their hearts. Yet Evan remained calm. His voice carried no bitterness, even though he had been placed in danger. This calmness made her question the stories she had heard about humans. She asked him how he managed to remain composed after everything that had happened. Evan answered with honesty. He said he had learned from his people that anger could cloud judgment. He explained that many years ago, his world had faced difficult times, and they had survived only by choosing cooperation over conflict. He said that humans had flaws, but also the ability to grow through every challenge. The queen remained silent for a long moment as she processed his words. She then stepped down from her throne and approached him slowly. The guards shifted uneasily, but she signaled for them to stay back. When she stood a short distance from Evan, she looked into his eyes and asked him what humans truly hope to achieve in the galaxy. Evan gave a simple answer. He said humans dreamed of connection rather than domination. They wanted to learn, share, and find a place where different species could work together without fear. He added that fear had caused much of the tension between their worlds, and only open conversation could clear that tension. The queen felt a shift inside her. Her people had long acted from caution, which sometimes led to misjudgments. She realized Evan's presence was an opportunity for a new start. She told him that if he had returned with anger, this meeting would have gone differently. But his willingness to communicate had changed the course of their future. She then offered him a seat, something rarely done for anyone outside her own species. Evan accepted the gesture with respect. They spoke for a long time. Evan asked about her people's customs, beliefs, and concerns. She explained how her society functioned and why some members were cautious about other species. In return, Evan described human history, their mistakes, their growth, and their desire to discover without causing fear. The queen listened with growing interest. She saw that humans were not just explorers. They were also survivors, thinkers, and individuals who valued connection. As the hours passed, something remarkable began to happen. The queen began imagining a new path for her people, a path where cooperation with humans could strengthen both worlds. She expressed a hope that perhaps their species could build a new agreement based on mutual respect. Evan smiled and said he believed that was possible. He explained that trust was something built slowly, but it could begin with a single honest conversation. The queen agreed and offered to create a council specifically designed to rebuild relations with humans. She said Evan could serve as the first bridge between their two worlds. Evan accepted her offer. He knew the journey ahead would still be challenging, but he believed this moment would inspire change. The queen then called her guards forward and instructed them to guide Evan through the palace as an honored guest. Her voice carried a new confidence, one that her guards had not heard in a long time. Evan turned back toward her and gave a respectful nod before following the guard's as he walked through the palace halls. He thought about the long path he had taken to reach this moment, from the frozen fields to the hidden tunnels, and now to the heart of the queen's chamber. Each step had shaped him. He realized that strength was not measured by force, but by the ability to stay steady when the world pushed against you. He felt hopeful for what lay ahead. Outside the palace, the Sky shone with soft shades of blue and purple. The air carried a calm temperature that brought a sense of peace. Evan stepped out onto the balcony and looked across the city. The shapes of the buildings flowed gracefully, reflecting the artistry of the Queen's people. He imagined a future where humans could walk freely here, learning, sharing, and building stories with the locals. For the first time since he had arrived on this planet, he felt welcomed. The guard showed him a resting area where he could stay for the night. Evan thanked them and sat down near a tall window that looked over the glowing skyline. He thought about the Queen's reaction when she first saw him. Her shock had felt genuine. She had truly believed he was gone. Yet that moment of surprise had led to a conversation that changed everything. He realized that sometimes the greatest turning points in history came not from grand battles, but from simple human presence. As the night settled, Evan knew that his return would be remembered by both species, not as a tale of fear or conflict, but as a story of resilience and understanding. The Queen had seen a human survive the impossible, stand in her chamber, and choose to speak instead of demand. That was the moment her world began to shift. Evan leaned back and closed his eyes with a calm breath. He knew tomorrow would bring